The warm Saturday afternoon sun felt good on Marcus Richardson's face as he walked down Main Street with his 6-year-old daughter Emma. Her small hand was tucked safely in his as she skipped beside him, her ponytail bouncing with each step. They had just finished lunch at her favorite restaurant, the one with the butterfly decorations on the walls and the mac and cheese that came in fun shapes. Marcus smiled as he watched Emma point at different things in the store windows. A red bicycle, a dress with sparkles, a toy that made funny sounds. She was always curious about everything. It was one of the things he loved most about her. Even though she was only 6, she noticed things that most adults missed. "Daddy, look at that puppy," Emma said, pulling on his hand. She pointed to a small dog walking with its owner across the street. The little golden puppy wagged its tail and seemed to smile at them. "Maybe we should think about getting you a pet," Marcus said. He had been thinking about it for a while now. Emma had been asking for a dog for months. Their big house felt too quiet sometimes, even with just the two of them. They walked past the coffee shop where Marcus sometimes stopped for his morning drink before work. The smell of fresh coffee mixed with the scent of flowers from the nearby garden. It was the kind of day that made him grateful for simple moments with his daughter. Marcus owned a technology company that he had built from nothing. It was worth millions of dollars now, but he tried not to let that change who he was. He still remembered what it was like to worry about money, to work long hours just to pay the bills. Those memories kept him grounded, even though his life was very different. Now Emma suddenly stopped walking. She tugged on his hand and pointed toward the small park across the street. "Daddy, why is that lady napping there?" Marcus followed her gaze and saw what she was looking at. On one of the wooden benches sat a young woman. She was curled up on her side, using her arms as a pillow. A thin jacket covered most of her body, but Marcus could see she was wearing what looked like hospital scrubs underneath. Next to her was a small backpack, old and worn but clean. The woman looked to be in her 20s. Her brown hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, and even from a distance, Marcus could see that she was pretty. But there was something about the way she was sleeping that made him pause. She was holding something close to her chest, and her whole body seemed tense even in sleep. "Is she okay, Daddy?" Emma asked. Her voice was full of concern. Emma had always been a caring child, the kind who worried about hurt animals and wanted to help everyone she met. Marcus felt his chest tighten as he really looked at the scene. The woman was clearly homeless. Her few belongings were carefully arranged around her, and she had chosen a bench that was partly hidden from the main walking path. She was trying to be invisible, to not bother anyone. "I think she might be very tired, sweetheart," Marcus said carefully. He did not want to scare Emma, but he also did not want to lie to her. Emma was smart for her age and deserved honest answers. They stood there for a moment, watching. The woman shifted slightly in her sleep, and Marcus could see what she was holding. It was a photograph, small and creased from being handled so much. Even though he could not see the picture clearly, something about the way she held it made his heart hurt. "Can we help her?" Emma asked. Her big blue eyes looked up at Marcus with the kind of trust that made him want to be a better man every day. Marcus had walked past homeless people before. He gave money to charities and felt good about helping that way. But this was different. Maybe it was Emma's innocent question, or maybe it was something about the woman herself. She did not look like she belonged on the street. Her clothes were clean, and there was a dignity about her even as she slept on the hard bench. "What do you think we should do?" Marcus asked Emma. He had learned that his daughter often had good ideas, and he wanted to teach her to think about how to help others. Emma thought for a moment, her face serious. "Maybe she's hungry. Remember when I was really tired after playing all day? You said I needed food and rest." Marcus smiled at his daughter's simple wisdom. "That's a very good idea, Emma." They crossed the street carefully, Marcus holding Emma's hand tight. As they got closer, Marcus could see more details. The woman's scrubs had the logo of the city hospital on them. She was a nurse, or at least she had been. Her shoes were good quality but worn, the kind that someone who stood on their feet all day would need. The woman's face looked peaceful in sleep, but there were dark circles under her eyes. She was thin, too thin, like someone who had not been eating enough for a while. Her backpack was small, clearly holding only the most important things. Marcus felt something change inside him as he looked at her. This was not just a random homeless person. This was someone who had probably spent her days taking care of others, helping sick people get better, and now she was the one who needed help. "Should we wake her up?" Emma whispered. Marcus was not sure. He did not want to scare the woman, but he also could not just walk away. Not with Emma watching. Not when he had the power to help and it would cost him nothing. "Let's be very gentle," Marcus said. Marcus. He approached the bench slowly and cleared his throat softly. The woman's eyes opened immediately. They were green and alert, but also worried. She sat up quickly, pulling her backpack closer to her body. The photograph fell to the ground, and Marcus could see it was a picture of an older woman with the same green eyes. "I'm sorry," the woman said quickly. "I wasn't bothering anyone. I'll move." Her voice was educated, polite. This made Marcus even more curious about her story. "Please don't apologize," Marcus said gently. "My daughter Emma and I were wondering if you might be hungry. We'd like to buy you some food, if that's okay." The woman looked at Emma, who gave her a small wave and a smile. Something in the woman's face softened when she saw the little girl. "That's very kind," she said carefully. "But I don't want to be any trouble." Emma stepped forward, still holding her father's hand. "You're not trouble. Daddy says helping people is what good people do." The woman's eyes filled with tears, but she blinked them back quickly. She looked at Marcus as if trying to decide whether to trust him. "My name is Marcus," he said. "And this is Emma. What's your name?" The woman hesitated for a moment, then said, "Sarah. My name is Sarah." Sarah looked at the man and his daughter standing in front of her. The little girl had kind eyes and a sweet smile. The man seemed genuine, but Sarah had learned to be careful. People were not always what they seemed, especially when you had nothing and they had everything. She could tell from Marcus's clothes that he had money. His watch was expensive and his shoes were the kind that cost more than she used to make in a week. But there was something different about him. He was not looking at her like she was dirty or dangerous. He was looking at her like she was a person. "It's nice to meet you, Sarah," Emma said politely. "Are you really hungry? Because I have half a sandwich left from lunch and Daddy always says sharing is important." Sarah's stomach growled at the mention of food. She had not eaten since yesterday morning, when she found some day-old bread behind a bakery. But accepting help felt wrong. She had always been the one helping others, not the one needing help. "I don't want to take your sandwich," Sarah said, to Emma. "You should save it for later." Emma looked up at her father, then back at Sarah. "But I'm already full, and it's really good. It has turkey and cheese and no yucky vegetables." Despite everything, Sarah found herself smiling. This little girl was so innocent and sweet. It reminded her of why she had become a nurse in the first place. She loved taking care of people, especially children. Marcus watched the interaction between his daughter and Sarah. He could see that Sarah was trying to stay strong, but she was clearly struggling. Her hands shook slightly and she kept glancing around as if she expected someone to tell her to leave. "There's a cafe just down the street," Marcus said gently. "Would you let us buy you a proper meal? Emma's right about sharing being important. It would mean a lot to both of us." Sarah wanted to say no. She had been refusing help for weeks, too proud to admit how bad things had gotten. But something about this father and daughter made her feel safe. And she was so tired of being hungry. "And scared, okay," she said quietly. "But just something small. I don't want to cost you too much." Emma clapped her hands together. "Yay! We can sit at the table by the window, that's my favorite spot." They walked slowly to the cafe. Sarah carried her backpack and the photograph that she had picked up from the ground. Marcus noticed that she stayed alert, watching everything around them. She moved like someone who had learned that safety was never guaranteed. The cafe was warm and smelled like fresh bread and coffee. The owner, Mrs. Peterson, knew Marcus and Emma well. They came here sometimes on Saturday afternoons. "Hello, Mr. Richardson," Mrs. Peterson said with a smile. "The usual table?" "Yes, please," Marcus said. He gestured for Sarah to sit down first, then helped Emma into her chair. Sarah looked around the cafe with wide eyes. It had been months since she had been inside somewhere so nice and clean. The chairs were comfortable, and there were fresh flowers on each table. It felt like a dream. "What would you like to eat?" Marcus asked, handing Sarah a menu. Sarah stared at all the choices. Everything sounded wonderful, but she could see the prices. Even the cheapest sandwich cost more than she wanted this kind man to spend on her. "Maybe just a cup of soup?" she said. Emma looked at the menu and pointed to a picture. "The chicken and rice soup is really good, but so is the grilled cheese sandwich and the fruit salad. Daddy, can Sarah get all three?" Marcus smiled at his daughter's generosity. "Sarah can have whatever she wants. Don't worry about the cost." Sarah felt tears in her eyes again. When was the last time someone had been this kind to her? When was the last time she had felt like she mattered? "The soup does sound good," she admitted. "And maybe a small sandwich." Mrs. Peterson came over to take their order. Marcus ordered soup, a sandwich, and a piece of pie for Sarah. He also asked for milk and cookies for Emma and coffee for himself. While they waited for the food, Emma started talking to Sarah like they were old friends. "Do you have any kids?" Emma asked. "No," Sarah said. "But I work with children sometimes. I'm a nurse." Emma's eyes got big. "Really? Nurses are heroes. They help people feel better." Sarah felt a warm feeling in her chest. It had been so long since anyone had called her a hero. These days she felt more like a failure. "I used to help people," Sarah said sadly. "But I don't have a job right now." "Why not?" Emma asked with the innocent curiosity of a child. Marcus gently touched Emma's hand. "Some questions are private, sweetheart." But Sarah found herself wanting to talk. Maybe it was Emma's sweet face, or maybe she had been holding everything inside for too long. "My mom got very sick," Sarah said slowly. "She had cancer, and the treatments cost a lot of money. I used all my savings to help her. Then I had to take time off work to take care of her. When she died, I could not pay my rent anymore. I lost my apartment, then my car. I've been trying to find a new job, but it's hard when you don't have an address or a phone." Emma reached across the table and patted Sarah's hand. "I'm sorry your mommy died. My mommy died too, but I was little, so I don't remember much." Sarah looked at Marcus with surprise. He nodded and said quietly, "Emma's mother died in a car accident 2 years ago. It's been just the two of us since then." "I'm so sorry," Sarah said, meaning it. She could see the sadness in Marcus's eyes, even though he tried to hide it for Emma's sake. The food arrived, and Sarah tried to eat slowly and politely, but she was so hungry that it was hard not to devour everything quickly. The soup was warm and delicious, and the sandwich was the best thing she had tasted in months. "This is wonderful," she said. "Thank you so much." Marcus watched Sarah eat and felt angry at the unfairness of life. Here was a woman who had given everything to save her mother, who had dedicated her life to helping others, and she was living on the street. Meanwhile, he had more money than he could ever spend. "Sarah," he said carefully, "what kind of nursing did you do?" "I worked in pediatrics," Sarah said. "Children's medicine. I loved it. Kids are so brave, and they get better so fast when they feel loved and cared for." Emma smiled. "I knew you were nice. You have nice eyes, like the nurses when I had to get my shots." After they finished eating, Marcus paid the bill and they walked outside. Sarah felt better with food in her stomach, but she also felt sad. This brief time of kindness was ending, and she would have to go back to the reality of having nowhere to sleep tonight. "Thank you again," she said. "This meant more to me than you know." She started to walk away, but Emma called after her. "Sarah, wait, where are you going to sleep tonight?" Sarah stopped but did not turn around. She could not lie to this sweet child, but she also could not tell her the truth. Marcus made a decision that would change all their lives. "Sarah," he called. "Can we talk for a minute?" She turned around and he could see the fear in her eyes. She was probably expecting him to lecture her or give her advice she had already heard 100 times. "I have an idea," Marcus said. "It might sound crazy, but I hope you'll consider it." Sarah waited, her heart beating fast. "I have a guest house on my property. It's small but comfortable. You could stay there while you look for work. No strings attached, no payment required. Just a safe place to sleep and get back on your feet." Sarah stared at him in shock. "I can't accept that. You don't even know me." "You're right," Marcus said. "But Emma likes you, and she's a good judge of character. And honestly, our house has been too quiet since my wife died. Maybe we could help each other." Emma grabbed Sarah's hand. "Please say yes. We have a really nice guest house, and there's a garden with flowers, and you could help me take care of my goldfish." Sarah looked at this kind man and his wonderful daughter. Part of her wanted to say yes so badly it hurt. But she had learned that things that seemed too good to be true usually were. "I need to think about it," she said finally. "Of course," Marcus said. He pulled a business card from his wallet and wrote something on the back. "This is my address. If you change your mind, come by any time. The offer stands." Sarah took the card with shaking hands. As they said goodbye, Emma hugged her tight. "I hope you come stay with us," Emma whispered. "I think we need you as much as you need us." As Marcus and Emma walked away, Sarah stood on the sidewalk, holding the card. For the first time in months, she felt something she had almost forgotten: hope. Sarah spent that night on a different bench, far from the park where she had met Marcus and Emma. She could not stop thinking about their offer. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Emma's sweet face and heard Marcus's kind voice. But accepting help from strangers felt dangerous even if they seemed nice. She had been on the street for 3 weeks now. 3 weeks of sleeping in parks, hiding from police, and trying to stay clean in public bathrooms. She had learned which restaurants threw away good food and which places let her sit for a few minutes without calling security. The business card Marcus had given her was tucked safely in her pocket. She had read it so many times that she had memorized every word. Marcus Richardson, CEO of Richardson Technologies. His home address was in the nicest part of town, where the houses were big and the lawns were perfect. As the sun came up on Sunday morning, Sarah made her decision. She was tired of being scared and hungry. She was tired of feeling like she did not matter. If Marcus and Emma were really offering help, maybe she should be brave enough to accept it. She found a public bathroom and cleaned herself up as best she could. She washed her face and hands, brushed her teeth with a toothbrush she had bought with her last few dollars, and combed her hair. She wanted to look respectable when she showed up at their door. The bus ride to Marcus's neighborhood took an hour. Sarah watched the houses get bigger and more beautiful as they drove. By the time she reached his street, she was having second thoughts. These people lived in a completely different world than she did. What if they had changed their minds? What if yesterday had just been a moment of charity that they regretted? Marcus's house was even more impressive than she had imagined. It was huge, with a circular driveway, a perfectly manicured lawn, and flowers everywhere. There was a fountain in the front yard and tall trees that provided shade. It looked like something from a magazine. Sarah almost turned around and left. But then she remembered Emma's hug and the way Marcus had looked at her like she was worth helping. She walked up the long driveway and rang the doorbell. The door was answered by a middle-aged Hispanic woman with kind eyes and graying hair. She was wearing an apron and had flour on her hands. "Can I help you?" the woman asked politely. "I'm looking for Marcus Richardson," Sarah said nervously. "My name is Sarah. He and his daughter invited me to, well, it's complicated." The woman smiled. "You must be the young lady Mr. Marcus told me about. I'm Rosa, the housekeeper. Please come in. They're having breakfast." Sarah followed Rosa through a beautiful entryway with marble floors and a crystal chandelier. The house smelled like pancakes and coffee. She could hear Emma's laughter coming from what must be the kitchen. "Mr. Marcus," Rosa called out. "Your guest is here." Marcus appeared in the doorway, and his face lit up when he saw Sarah. He was wearing jeans and a casual shirt, and he looked more relaxed than he had yesterday. "Sarah, I'm so glad you came. Emma will be thrilled." "Daddy, is that Sarah?" Emma's voice called from the kitchen. "Yes, sweetheart." Emma came running into the entryway and threw her arms around Sarah's waist. "You came. I was hoping you would. Come." Sarah felt tears in her eyes as she hugged the little girl back. When was the last time someone had been this excited to see her? "Are you hungry?" Marcus asked. "Rosa makes the best pancakes in the state." "I don't want to impose," Sarah said. "Nonsense," Rosa said firmly. "I always make too much food anyway. Come, sit down and eat." They led Sarah into a huge kitchen with granite countertops and windows that looked out over a beautiful backyard. The table was set for 3, but Rosa quickly added another place setting. "I told Rosa all about you," Emma said as they sat down. "She was excited to meet you too." Rosa served Sarah a plate piled high with fluffy pancakes, bacon, and fresh fruit. There was orange juice and coffee, and everything tasted amazing. "This is incredible," Sarah said. "Thank you so much." "Rosa spoils us," Marcus said with a smile. "She's been with our family for 5 years now. I don't know what we'd do without her." "Mr. Marcus is too kind," Rosa said, but Sarah could see the affection between them. As they ate, Emma chattered about all the things she wanted to show Sarah. The guest house, her room, the garden, her goldfish named Sparkles. Marcus watched, his daughter with a smile. Sarah could see how much he loved Emma and how hard he tried to make her happy. "Emma," Marcus said gently, "let's not overwhelm Sarah. She might need some time to think about our offer." "Actually," Sarah said, taking a deep breath, "I've thought about it. If the offer is still open, I would like to accept. But I want to pay rent, and I want to help around the house. I don't want charity." Marcus started to protest, but Sarah held up her hand. "Please," she said, "I need to feel like I'm contributing something. I've been a nurse for 6 years. I know how to work hard, and I know how to take care of people. Let me earn my place here." Marcus considered this. He could see that Sarah's pride was important to her, and he did not want to take that away. "All right," he said, "but the rent will be very small and you'll only pay when you find work. Deal?" "Deal," Sarah said, feeling relieved. After breakfast, Marcus showed Sarah to the guest house. It was a small building behind the main house connected by a stone pathway through the garden. It had a living room, a bedroom, a tiny kitchen, and a bathroom. It was decorated simply but beautifully, with comfortable furniture and windows that let in lots of light. "This is perfect," Sarah said, looking around in amazement. "It's like a fairy tale. The last tenant moved out 6 months ago," Marcus explained. "It's been empty since then. You're welcome to stay as long as you need." Sarah set her backpack down on the bed and pulled out her few possessions: some clothes, toiletries, her nursing, credentials, and the photograph of her mother. She placed the picture on the nightstand and felt like she was home for the first time in months. "Can I ask you something?" Marcus said gently. Sarah nodded. "Yesterday you mentioned that you're a pediatric nurse. Have you thought about applying at the children's hospital here? They might be hiring." "I've tried calling," Sarah said. "But without a phone or an address, it's hard to apply for jobs. And I look—" She gestured at her worn clothes and tired face. "Well, now you have an address," Marcus said, "and we can get you a phone. As for clothes, Emma and I need to go shopping anyway. Maybe you'd like to come with us?" Sarah felt overwhelmed by his kindness. "I can't let you buy me clothes." "Consider it a loan," Marcus said. "You can pay me back when you're working again." That afternoon, Marcus, Emma, and Sarah went to the mall. Emma was delighted to help Sarah pick out new clothes. They bought professional outfits for job interviews, casual clothes, and even some scrubs in case Sarah found nursing work. "You look so pretty," Emma said when Sarah tried on a blue dress. Sarah looked at herself in the mirror and barely recognized the person staring back. She looked professional and confident, like the nurse she used to be. Back at the house, Rosa had prepared Sarah's favorite meal based on what she had mentioned liking. They all ate dinner together on the back patio, watching the sunset over the garden. "I have to ask," Sarah said to Marcus, "why are you doing this? You don't know anything about me. I could be dangerous or a drug addict or a criminal." Marcus was quiet for a moment. "When my wife died, I felt like my world ended. Emma was so young, and I didn't know how to take care of her alone. But people helped us. Rosa came to work for us and became like family. My neighbors brought meals. Emma's teacher spent extra time with her. I learned that sometimes people help because they know what it's like to need help. He paused and looked at his daughter who was chasing fireflies in the garden. But honestly, Emma likes you, and Emma doesn't like everyone. She has good instincts about people. If she trusts you, then I trust you. Sarah felt a warmth in her, chest that she had not felt since her mother died. For the first time in months, she felt like she belonged somewhere. I won't let you down, she promised. I know you won't, Marcus said. That night, Sarah lay in the comfortable bed in the guest house and listened to the sounds of the neighborhood. Children playing in the distance, a dog barking, the gentle hum of air conditioning. Normal sounds of normal families living normal lives. She thought about her mother and how proud she would be to see Sarah in a safe place with good people. She thought about Emma's laugh and Marcus's kindness and Rosa's warm smile. Tomorrow, she would start looking for work. She would begin rebuilding her life. But tonight, for the first time in weeks, she felt safe. She looked at her mother's photograph on the nightstand and whispered, I think everything is going to be okay, Mom. I think I found some angels. Outside her window, she could see the lights on in the main house. Through Emma's bedroom window, she could see Marcus reading his daughter a bedtime story. It was a scene of perfect family happiness, and somehow Sarah felt like she was part of it. For the first time since her mother's death, Sarah fell asleep without crying. Sarah woke up in the guest house to the sound of birds singing outside her window. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then she remembered everything and smiled. She was safe, she was clean, and she had slept through the entire night without waking up scared. She showered and put on one of her new outfits, a simple but professional black skirt and white blouse. Looking in the mirror, she felt like herself again for the first time in months. There was a gentle knock on her door. When she opened it, Emma was standing there in her pajamas, holding a plate of toast and a cup of coffee. Rosa made you breakfast, Emma said proudly. She said you might be nervous about your first day looking for work and people think better when they eat good food. Sarah accepted the breakfast gratefully. That's very thoughtful, thank you. Daddy is driving me to school, but he said to tell you that he put some phone numbers on the kitchen counter, places that might be hiring nurses. Your daddy is very kind, Sarah said. Emma nodded seriously. He's the best daddy in the world, and now you're here to help take care of him too. After Emma and Marcus left for school and work, Sarah sat at the kitchen table with Rosa and made her plan for the day. Rosa had become an instant ally, treating Sarah like family from the moment she arrived. Mr. Marcus left you a cell phone, Rosa said, pointing to a small device on the counter. He said every job hunter needs a phone. He also left some money for bus fare and lunch. Sarah felt grateful but also overwhelmed by their generosity. I have to find a way to pay him back for everything. The best way to pay him back is to be happy, Rosa said wisely. Mr. Marcus has been sad for a long time since his wife died. Having you here makes him smile more. Emma too. That little girl needs a woman in her life. Sarah spent the morning calling hospitals and clinics. The Children's Hospital was interested and asked her to come in for an interview that afternoon. A private nursing agency also wanted to meet with her, but the most promising call came from Marcus himself around lunchtime. Sarah, I hope you don't mind, but I called my neighbor Mrs. Chen. She's 78 and broke her hip last month. She needs someone to help her with daily activities and make sure she takes her medicine. It's not hospital work, but it pays well, and she's a wonderful lady. Would you be interested? That sounds perfect, Sarah said. I love working with elderly patients. Great. Can you go meet her this afternoon? She lives 3 houses down from us. Mrs. Chen lived in a beautiful house surrounded by rose gardens. She was a tiny, elegant woman with silver hair and bright, intelligent eyes. She walked with a cane but moved with dignity. So you're the young lady Marcus told me about, Mrs. Chen said, inviting Sarah inside. He said you're a nurse. Yes, ma'am. I specialize in pediatric care, but I've worked with patients of all ages. They talked for an hour. Mrs. Chen was sharp and funny, with stories about her late husband and her travels around the world. She had been a teacher for 40 years and had no children of her own. "I don't need someone to baby me," Mrs. Chen said firmly. "But I do need help with grocery shopping, cooking, and remembering to take my pills. Sometimes I get dizzy and need someone nearby. Are you interested?" "Very much," Sarah said. "When would you like me to start?" "How about tomorrow? I'll pay you $15 an hour, 30 hours a week. Does that sound fair?" Sarah almost cried, with relief. It was enough money to pay Marcus rent and still have some left over. "That sounds perfect." When Sarah got back to Marcus's house, Emma was in the backyard playing with her goldfish. The little girl ran over when she saw Sarah. "How did it go? Did you get a job?" "I did. I'm going to help take care of Mrs. Chen. She's a very nice lady." Emma clapped her hands. "That's wonderful. Now you can stay with us and never have to sleep on benches again." That evening, the three of them had dinner together on the back patio. Sarah told them about Mrs. Chen and her new job. Marcus seemed genuinely happy for her success. "Mrs. Chen is great," he said. "She's been like a grandmother to Emma since we moved here. You'll love working for her." "I already do," Sarah said. "She reminds me of my mom in some ways, strong and independent." After dinner, Emma asked Sarah to help her with her homework. They sat at the kitchen table while Marcus cleaned up the dishes. Emma was working on a writing assignment about heroes. "I want to write about you," Emma told Sarah. "Me? I'm not a hero." "Yes, you are. You help sick people get better. And you're brave. Daddy said being homeless was scary, but you didn't give up." Sarah felt tears in her eyes. "What about your daddy? He's the real hero. He helped a stranger when he didn't have to." Emma thought about this seriously. "I think you're both heroes, and maybe I can be one too someday." Over the next few weeks, Sarah settled into a routine that felt like a real life. She worked with Mrs. Chen in the mornings, came home for lunch, and then spent the afternoons with Emma when she got home from school. Mrs. Chen turned out to be a wonderful employer and friend. She was full of stories and wisdom, and she treated Sarah like the granddaughter she never had. They cooked together, worked in the garden, and talked about everything from books to recipes to life lessons. "You know," Mrs. Chen said one day as they planted flowers, "I was lonely before you came. It's nice to have someone to talk to who really listens." "I was lonely too," Sarah admitted. "This job saved my life in more ways than one." In the afternoons, Sarah helped Emma with homework, took her to the park, and taught her things like how to braid hair and paint her nails. Emma soaked up the female attention like a flower that had been waiting for rain. "Sarah, can you teach me how to cook?" Emma asked one day. "Rosa's a good teacher, but she's always busy, and I want to learn girl things." They started having cooking lessons in the evening, making simple things like cookies and pasta. Marcus would watch from the doorway sometimes, smiling at the sight of his daughter learning and laughing. Sarah noticed that Marcus seemed happier too. He worked long hours, but when he came home, he was more relaxed. He laughed more and seemed less worried about Emma. One evening, as they were all watching a movie together, Emma fell asleep on the couch between Sarah and Marcus. Without thinking, Sarah gently brushed the little girl's hair back from her face. "She's gotten so attached to you," Marcus said quietly. "I hope that's okay." "It's more than okay," Sarah said. "I love her like she was my own daughter." Marcus looked at Sarah for a long moment. "She loves you too. We both do." There was something in his voice that made Sarah's heart beat faster. She looked at him and saw something in his eyes that she had not expected, something that scared and excited her at the same time. "Marcus," she started to say, but then Emma stirred in her sleep and the moment passed. Sarah began paying Marcus rent from her first paycheck, though he protested that it was too much. She also insisted on helping Rosa with housework and cooking. She wanted to contribute to the household in every way she could. "You don't have to prove anything to us," Marcus told her one day. "You belong here." "I know," Sarah said, "but I need to feel like I'm earning my place. I've never lived anywhere that I didn't work for." Marcus understood. He had built his business from nothing and knew the importance of feeling like you deserved what you had. The only difficult part of Sarah's new life was dealing with some of Marcus's friends and neighbors. Not everyone was as accepting as Mrs. Chen. She heard whispers at the grocery store and saw the looks when she was out with Emma. "That's the homeless woman living with Marcus Richardson," she heard someone say at the park one day. "I heard she was sleeping on park benches," another person whispered. What was he thinking, bringing her around his daughter? Sarah tried not to let the comments bother her, but they hurt. She had worked hard to rebuild her life, but some people would always see her as the woman who had nothing. Emma noticed Sarah was upset after one particularly bad encounter at the store. "Are you sad because those ladies were mean?" Emma asked. Little," Sarah admitted. "Daddy says some people are mean because they're scared or jealous. He says the best thing to do is be kind anyway and show them they're wrong about you." Sarah hugged Emma tight. "Your daddy is very wise." That night, Marcus found Sarah sitting in the garden behind the guest house. She was looking at the stars and seemed deep in thought. "Penny for your thoughts?" he said, sitting down beside her. "I was just thinking about how much my life has changed," Sarah said. 3 months ago I had nothing. Now I have a job, a place to live, and people who care about me. It feels like a dream sometimes." "You deserve all of this and more," Marcus said firmly. "Don't let anyone make you feel otherwise." Sarah looked at him gratefully. "Thank you for believing in me when I couldn't believe in myself. Thank you for bringing light back into our house," Marcus said. "Emma is happier than she's been since her mother died. And so am I." They sat in comfortable silence looking at the stars. Sarah felt a peace she had never known before. She had found more than just a place to live. She had found a family. But she also felt something else growing in her heart, something that both thrilled and terrified her. She was falling in love with Marcus Richardson, and she had no idea what to do about it. Life had settled into a comfortable routine for everyone in the Richardson household. Sarah had been living in the guest house for 2 months now, and it felt like she had always been part of the family. She loved her job with Mrs. Chen. Emma was doing better in school, and Marcus seemed more relaxed than he had been in years. But their peaceful life was about to be disrupted. It was a Saturday morning when Marcus's sister Jennifer arrived unannounced. Sarah was in the kitchen with Rosa and Emma making pancakes for breakfast when they heard the doorbell ring. "I'll get it," Marcus called from his office. Sarah heard voices in the front hall, one of them sharp and angry. Emma looked up from mixing the pancake batter with a worried expression. "That sounds like Aunt Jennifer," Emma said quietly. "She always talks loud when she's mad." Rosa and Sarah exchanged glances. Rosa had mentioned Marcus's sister before. Jennifer lived in New York and rarely visited, but when she did, she usually had opinions about how Marcus should run his life. "Emma, sweetheart, why don't you go wash your hands?" Rosa suggested gently. A few minutes later, Marcus appeared in the kitchen doorway with a tall, elegant woman who looked like an older, sharper version of Emma. Jennifer Richardson Whitman was wearing an expensive suit and jewelry that probably cost more than Sarah made in a year. "Jennifer, this is Sarah," Marcus said, his voice carefully neutral. "Sarah, my sister Jennifer." Sarah wiped her hands on a dish towel and stepped forward with a smile. "It's nice to meet you." Jennifer looked Sarah up and down with cold blue eyes. She did not offer to shake hands or return the greeting. "So you're the homeless person living in my brother's guest house," Jennifer said. The words hit Sarah like a slap. Emma gasped and Rosa made a disapproving noise under her breath. "Jennifer," Marcus said sharply. "That's enough." "I'm sorry if I'm being direct, Marcus, but someone needs to speak the truth here. Do you have any idea what people are saying about this arrangement?" Sarah felt her face burn with embarrassment and anger. She had known this moment would come eventually, but she had hoped that by working hard and proving herself, she might avoid it. "What people are saying doesn't matter," Marcus said firmly. "It matters to me," Jennifer shot back. "It matters to the family reputation. It matters to Emma's future. What happens when she starts school in the fall? Do you want her classmates to know that her father took in a vagrant?" "Sarah is not a vagrant," Emma said loudly, surprising everyone. She's my friend and she takes care of Mrs. Chen and she helps me with my homework and she's nice. Jennifer looked down at her niece with disapproval. Children don't understand these things, Emma. Adults have to make difficult decisions to protect them. Sarah could not take any more. "Excuse me," she said quietly, and walked out of the kitchen. She went to the guest house and sat on the bed, shaking with hurt and anger. She had known that some people looked down on her, but hearing it said so cruelly in front of Emma was devastating. Back in the kitchen, Marcus was having a heated argument with his sister. "How dare you speak to Sarah that way in front of Emma?" he said. "Someone has to be the voice of reason here," Jennifer replied. "Marcus, you're a single father with a multi-million-dollar company. You can't just invite random homeless people to live on your property. Have you done a background check? Do you know anything about her past? She could be a drug addict, a criminal, anything. I know she's a registered nurse who lost everything taking care of her dying mother," Marcus said angrily. "I know she's kind and hardworking and has been nothing but wonderful to Emma." "You're thinking with your heart instead of your head," Jennifer said. "And that's dangerous when you have a child to protect." Emma had been listening to the adults argue, and now she started to cry. "I don't want Sarah to leave," she sobbed. "She's the best thing that happened to us since Mommy died." Jennifer's expression softened slightly when she saw her niece's tears, but she did not back down. "Emma, honey, your daddy just wants to help people. But sometimes helping strangers can be dangerous. Wouldn't you rather have someone we know take care of you?" "I want Sarah," Emma said firmly through her tears. Marcus picked up his daughter and held her close. "Sarah isn't going anywhere, sweetheart. Don't worry." But Jennifer was not finished. "Actually, Marcus, I've been talking to my lawyer. If you insist on keeping this woman around Emma, I might have to petition for custody. I have to protect my niece even if you won't." The kitchen fell silent except for Emma's sniffles. Rosa looked shocked, and Marcus's face went pale. "You wouldn't dare," he said quietly. "Try me," Jennifer replied. "I have the money and the lawyers to make it happen. Emma should be living with a stable family, not in a house where homeless strangers come and go." Sarah, who had been standing outside the kitchen door listening, felt her world crashing down around her. She could not be the reason Emma was taken away from her father. She could not be the cause of this family's destruction. She walked back into the kitchen, her decision made. "It's okay," she said quietly. "I'll leave." "Sarah?" "No," Marcus said immediately. "Yes," Sarah said firmly. "Jennifer is right. I don't belong here. I should never have stayed this long." "That's not true," Emma cried, running to Sarah and wrapping her arms around her waist. "You do belong here. Tell her, Daddy." Sarah knelt down to Emma's level and gently wiped the little girl's tears. "Listen to me, sweetheart. I love you very much and I love your daddy too. But sometimes adults have to make hard choices. Your daddy is the most important person in your life, and nothing should ever threaten that." "But where will you go?" Emma asked through her tears. "I'll find somewhere," Sarah said, trying to sound confident. "I have a job now, remember? I can take care of myself." Jennifer watched this scene with a mixture of satisfaction and discomfort. She had not expected Sarah to give up so easily, and seeing Emma's pain made her feel like the villain. "I'm sure you understand this is for the best," Jennifer said to Sarah, but her voice was less harsh than before. Sarah stood up and looked Jennifer in the eye. "I understand that you love Emma and want to protect her. I respect that, even if I don't agree with your methods." She turned to Marcus, who was staring at her in disbelief. "Thank you for everything you've done for me. You saved my life, and I'll never forget that. But I won't be the reason your family falls apart." "Sarah, please don't do this," Marcus said desperately. "We can fight this together." "No," Sarah said sadly. "Emma needs her father more than she needs me. And you need to focus on keeping your daughter, not on protecting me." She went to the guest house to pack her few belongings. Marcus followed her leaving Jennifer and Emma in the kitchen. "This is insane," he said, watching Sarah fold her clothes. "You can't let Jennifer bully you into leaving." "I'm not being bullied," Sarah said calmly, though her heart was breaking. "I'm making a choice. Emma's well-being comes first, always. What about your job with Mrs. Chen?" "I'll figure something out. Maybe I can find a room to rent nearby and keep working for her." Marcus sat down heavily on the bed. "I can't believe this is happening. We were so happy." Sarah stopped packing and looked at him. "We were happy. That was real, and no one can take that away from us. But happiness doesn't always last forever." "It could have," Marcus said quietly, "if we had been braver." Sarah knew what he was talking about. The feelings that had been growing between them, the looks that lasted too long, the moments when they almost said things they were afraid to say. "Maybe in another life," she said softly. An hour later, Sarah's bag was packed and she was ready to go. She said goodbye to Rosa, who cried and pressed a container of homemade food into her hands. Emma was inconsolable. She clung to Sarah and begged her not to leave. "I'll see you again," Sarah promised, though she did not know if it was true. "You be good for your daddy, okay? And remember everything I taught you about braiding hair and taking care of goldfish." "I'll remember everything," Emma sobbed. Marcus drove Sarah to a small motel downtown. Neither of them spoke during the drive. When they arrived, he helped her carry her bag to the room. "This isn't over," he said firmly. "I'm going to find a way to fix this." "Don't," Sarah said. "Don't risk losing Emma for me. She needs you more than I do." "What if I need you too?" Marcus asked quietly. Sarah felt tears, threatening, but she held them back. "Then we'll have to learn to live without getting what we need." That night, Sarah lay in the uncomfortable motel bed and cried for the family she had lost. She thought about Emma's laughter, Rosa's kindness, and Marcus's gentle strength. She thought about the garden behind the guest house and the feeling of belonging she had found there. But mostly she thought about how love sometimes meant letting go, even when it broke your heart to do it. Meanwhile, across town, Marcus tucked a heartbroken Emma into bed and wondered how he was going to explain to his daughter why sometimes the people you love the most are the ones you have to fight hardest to keep. 2 weeks after Sarah left, life in the Richardson house felt empty and sad. Emma barely ate her meals and cried herself to sleep every night. Marcus worked longer hours to avoid coming home to the quiet house, but nothing helped. Even Rosa seemed to move around the kitchen with less energy than before. "Daddy, can we call Sarah?" Emma asked every morning at breakfast. "I don't think that's a good idea right now, sweetheart," Marcus would answer, though it broke his heart to say it. Jennifer had stayed for a few days after Sarah left, satisfied that she had solved the problem, but seeing Emma's misery had made her uncomfortable. She left for New York earlier than planned, promising to check in regularly to make sure Marcus was making good decisions. Sarah was living in a small apartment she had found near Mrs. Chen's house. It was not much, just one room with a tiny kitchen and bathroom, but it was clean and she could afford it with her nursing salary. She missed Emma and Marcus terribly, but she tried to focus on her work and building her new life. Mrs. Chen had been surprised and upset when Sarah explained that she had to move out of Marcus's guest house. That sister of his always was a difficult woman, Mrs. Chen said disapprovingly. "She thinks money makes her better than everyone else." "She was just protecting Emma," Sarah said, though she still felt hurt by Jennifer's cruel words. "She was being a snob," Mrs. Chen replied firmly. "Marcus is a grown man who can make his own decisions." One evening, as Sarah was helping Mrs. Chen with her dinner, the older woman started feeling dizzy and weak. "I don't feel well," Mrs. Chen said, gripping the table for support. "Everything is spinning." Sarah immediately checked Mrs. Chen's blood pressure and pulse. Both were dangerously high. She called 911 and rode with Mrs. Chen to the hospital, staying by her side as the doctors worked to stabilize her condition. "You probably saved her life by acting so quickly," the emergency room doctor told Sarah. "If she had been alone, this could have been much worse." Mrs. Chen was admitted to the hospital for observation. Sarah stayed with her through the night, making sure she was comfortable and monitoring her vital signs. When Mrs. Chen's nephew arrived the next morning from another state, he was amazed by Sarah's dedication. "Thank you so much for taking such good care of my aunt," he said. "She's told me wonderful things about you." The incident reminded Sarah why she had become a nurse in the first place. She loved taking care of people, and she was good at it. Even though her personal life was a mess, her professional life was meaningful and rewarding. Meanwhile, Emma was getting sicker. What had started as sadness about missing Sarah had turned into something more serious. She was not eating, not sleeping, and seemed to have no energy for anything she used to enjoy. Marcus took her to the pediatrician, who could not find anything physically wrong with her. "Sometimes children react to emotional stress in physical ways," the doctor explained. "Has there been any major change in her life recently?" Marcus explained about Sarah leaving, and the doctor nodded understandingly. "Emma has experienced a lot of loss for such a young child," the doctor said. "First her mother, now someone else she cared about. She may be afraid to get attached to anyone new because she's learned that people leave." "What can I do?" Marcus asked desperately. "The best thing would be to restore stability in the relationships that make her feel safe," the doctor replied. "But I understand that's not always possible." That night, Marcus sat by Emma's bed as she struggled to fall asleep. "Daddy, do you think Sarah misses us?" Emma asked. "I'm sure she does, sweetheart." "Then why can't she come home?" Marcus did not know how to explain adult complications to a 6-year-old. Sometimes grown-ups make things more complicated than they need to be. "I had a dream that Sarah was taking care of a sick lady, and the lady almost died, but Sarah saved her," Emma said drowsily. Marcus felt a chill. Emma's dreams had always been vivid, but this one seemed too real. The next morning, Marcus called Mrs. Chen to check on her, something he had been doing regularly since Sarah left. "Oh, Marcus," Mrs. Chen said weakly from her hospital bed. "I'm so glad you called. I had quite a scare yesterday." She told him about her emergency and how Sarah had stayed with her all night at the hospital. "That girl is an angel," Mrs. Chen said. "She saved my life, Marcus. If she hadn't been there, I don't know what would have happened." Marcus felt a mixture of pride and sadness. He was proud of Sarah for being so dedicated and caring, but it also made him realize how much they had lost when she left. That afternoon, he made a decision. He called his lawyer. "I want to know what my sister can and cannot do legally regarding Emma's custody," he said, "and I want to know how to protect myself and my family from frivolous lawsuits." The lawyer, an old friend named David, was direct with his advice. "Jennifer would have a very hard time getting custody of Emma," David said. "You're a good father with no history of neglect or abuse. Having a boarder or guest in your home is not grounds for removing a child, especially one who has been helpful and appropriate. What about the fact that Sarah was homeless? Irrelevant. What matters is her character and behavior while living in your home. Has she ever done anything inappropriate around Emma? Never. She's been wonderful with Emma." "Then Jennifer is bluffing. She's using legal threats to manipulate you, but she doesn't actually have a case." Marcus felt a weight lift from his shoulders. He had been so scared of losing Emma that he had not thought clearly about the legal realities. "What should I do?" he asked. "Stop letting your sister bully you into making decisions that make your family unhappy," David replied. "And maybe consider that fighting for the people you love is worth the risk." That evening, Marcus called Sarah. She answered on the first ring, as if she had been hoping to hear from him. "Marcus, is everything okay? Is Emma all right?" "Emma is not all right," Marcus said honestly. "She's been sick since you left. The doctor says it's emotional stress. She misses you terribly." Sarah felt tears in her eyes. "I miss her too. I miss both of you. I talked to my lawyer today. Jennifer was bluffing about the custody thing. She doesn't have a legal case." There was silence on the other end of the phone. "Sarah, are you there?" "I'm here," she said quietly. "I'm just processing this." Mrs. Chen told me what happened yesterday, how you saved her life. I just did my job. No, you did what you always do. You took care of someone who needed you, just like you took care of Emma and me. Sarah was crying now, but she tried to keep her voice steady. What are you saying, Marcus? I'm saying I made a mistake letting you go. I'm saying I should have fought for you instead of being scared of my sister's threats. I'm saying I love you, and Emma loves you, and we want you to come home. The words hung in the air between them. Sarah had dreamed of hearing Marcus say he loved her, but she had never expected it to happen like this. I love you too, she whispered. I've loved you for months, but I was afraid to say it. Then come home, Marcus said. Come home and let's be a real family. What about Jennifer? Let me worry about Jennifer. She can disapprove all she wants, but she can't control my life or Emma's happiness. Are you sure about this? Really sure? I've never been more sure of anything in my life. The next morning, Marcus drove to Sarah's apartment to bring her home. When Emma saw Sarah walking up the driveway, she ran out of the house so fast she almost tripped. Sarah, you came back. Emma threw herself into Sarah's arms and held on tight. I missed you so much, sweetheart, Sarah said, crying happy tears. I'm so sorry I left. Are you going to stay forever this time? Emma asked. Sarah looked at Marcus, who was watching them with tears in his own eyes. I'm going to stay as long as your daddy wants me to, Sarah said. Forever then, Emma said confidently. Daddy wants you forever. He told me so. That evening, after Emma had gone to bed, Marcus and Sarah sat in the garden behind the guest house. But this time, instead of sitting apart, Marcus took Sarah's hand. I was so scared of losing Emma that I almost lost both of you, he said. I'm sorry I didn't fight for us sooner. You were protecting your daughter, Sarah said. I understood that, even when it broke my heart. I don't want to waste any more time being afraid, Marcus said. Life is too short and love is too precious. He pulled out a small velvet box and got down on one knee. Sarah, will you marry me? Will you be Emma's mother and my wife? Sarah stared at the ring in shock. It was beautiful, but more importantly, it represented everything she had ever wanted. A family, a home, someone to love who loved her back. Yes, she whispered. Yes, yes, yes. As Marcus slipped the ring onto her finger, Sarah felt like the luckiest woman in the world. She had lost everything once, but she had found something even better, a love that was worth fighting for. The next few weeks were like a beautiful dream for Sarah. She moved back into the guest house, but now it felt different. She was not just a temporary resident anymore. She was going to be Marcus's wife and Emma's stepmother. The ring on her finger caught the light every time she moved her hand, reminding her that this was real. Emma was back to her old happy self almost immediately. She had energy again, ate all her meals, and laughed constantly. She loved showing people Sarah's engagement ring and telling everyone that Sarah was going to be her new mommy. When is the wedding? Emma asked every day. Can I be the flower girl? Can I help pick your dress? Can we have chocolate cake? Sarah and Marcus had not set a date yet. They were still learning to be together as a couple, even though they had been living as a family for months. There were stolen kisses in the kitchen when Emma was not looking, long conversations after Emma went to bed, and moments of such happiness that Sarah sometimes could not believe it was real. But not everyone was happy about their engagement. Jennifer called the day after Marcus told her the news. Sarah could hear her angry voice through the phone from across the room. Have you completely lost your mind? Jennifer yelled. You're going to marry a homeless woman you picked up off the street? I'm going to marry the woman I love, Marcus replied calmly. The woman who saved Mrs. Chen's life, who has been wonderful to Emma, and who makes our family complete. What about a prenup? What about protecting your assets? She could be after your money. If Sarah wanted my money, she would not have insisted on paying rent and finding her own job, Marcus pointed out. She's the most independent person I know. The conversation went on for an hour, with Jennifer listing all the reasons the marriage was a mistake. Marcus listened patiently but did not change his mind. "I'm sorry you feel this way," he said finally. "But this is my decision, and I hope you'll learn to accept it." "Don't expect me to come to the wedding," Jennifer said before hanging up. Emma, who had been listening from the kitchen, came out with a worried expression. "Is Aunt Jennifer mad about the wedding?" "She'll come around," Marcus said, though he was not sure that was true. Some people need time to get used to new ideas. Sarah felt guilty about causing problems between Marcus and his sister, but Marcus would not let her apologize. "You are not responsible for other people's attitudes," he said firmly. "Jennifer will have to decide if her pride is more important than her family." Sarah threw herself into planning their small wedding. They decided to have the ceremony in the garden behind their house with just close friends and neighbors. Mrs. Chen, who had recovered completely from her health scare, insisted on providing the flowers from her rose garden. "It's the least I can do for the woman who saved my life," she said. Emma was indeed the flower girl, and she took her job very seriously. She practiced walking slowly and scattering petals for hours every day. "Weddings have to be perfect," she explained to Sarah, "because it's the most important day ever." Rosa was making the cake and all the food for the reception. She was almost as excited about the wedding as Emma was. "Finally, this house will have a real family again," she said, happily. But as the wedding day approached, Sarah began to feel nervous. Not about marrying Marcus, she was certain about that, but about the big step of officially becoming Emma's stepmother. One evening, she sat down with Emma for a serious conversation. "Emma, you know that when I marry your daddy, I'll officially become your stepmother, but I want you to know that I would never try to replace your real mommy. She was special, and she'll always be your first mother." Emma thought about this carefully. "Will you love me like a real mommy?" "I already do," Sarah said honestly. "I love you so much it sometimes makes my heart hurt." "Then you are a real mommy," Emma said simply. "I can have two mommies. One in heaven and one here with me." Sarah felt tears in her eyes. "Is that really okay with you?" "It's perfect," Emma said, giving Sarah a big hug. "I'm the luckiest girl ever because I get to have two mommies who love me." The night before the wedding, Marcus could not sleep. He walked out to the garden where the ceremony would take place the next day. Everything was decorated with white ribbons and roses from Mrs. Chen's garden. It looked like a fairy tale. Sarah could not sleep either. She saw Marcus in the garden and joined him there. "Having second thoughts?" she asked, only half joking. "Never," Marcus said, taking her hands. "I was just thinking about how different my life is now compared to a year ago. A year ago, I was just trying to get through each day. I was so focused on taking care of Emma and running my business that I forgot to live. And now? Now I remember what it feels like to be excited about the future, to have someone to share everything with, to be part of a real partnership." They stood together in comfortable silence, looking at the stars and thinking about their future. "I love you, Marcus Richardson," Sarah said softly. "I love you too, soon-to-be Sarah Richardson," he replied. The wedding day dawned bright and beautiful. Sarah woke up early and spent the morning getting ready with help from Rosa and Mrs. Chen. Her dress was simple but elegant, and Emma had picked out flowers for her hair. "You look like a princess," Emma said when Sarah was fully dressed. "Thank you, sweetheart. You look pretty beautiful yourself." Emma was wearing a pink dress with a flower crown and was carrying a basket of rose petals. She had been practicing her flower girl walk for weeks and was confident she would do it perfectly. The guests began arriving in the early afternoon. There were not many, just Mrs. Chen, a few neighbors, some of Marcus's business partners who had become friends, and Emma's teacher who had been important to their family. Marcus stood at the makeshift altar in his best suit, looking handsome and nervous. When the music started and Sarah appeared at the back of the garden, his face lit up with joy. Emma walked down the aisle first, scattering rose petals and beaming with pride. She did it perfectly, just as she had practiced. Then Sarah walked toward Marcus, her heart full of love and excitement. She had never imagined that her life could turn out so beautifully. The ceremony was short and sweet. They exchanged vows they had written themselves, promising to love and support each other through whatever life brought them. "I promise to be the best husband and father I can be," Marcus said. "I promise to make our house a home filled with love and laughter." "I promise to love you and Emma with all my heart," Sarah said. "I promise to be grateful every day for this second chance at happiness." When the minister pronounced them husband and wife, Emma cheered louder than anyone else. "Yay, now we're a real family," she shouted. The reception was held on the back patio, with Rosa's delicious food and a 3-layer chocolate cake that Emma had helped decorate. Everyone made toasts, wishing the new family happiness and love. Mrs. Chen stood up to speak, leaning on her cane but looking strong and healthy. "I have known Marcus and Emma for several years," she said. "They were a good family before, but they were missing something. Sarah brought joy back into their lives. She also saved my life, which means she is a hero as well as a wonderful woman. I am honored to call her my friend." As the sun began to set, Marcus and Sarah had their first dance as husband and wife, while Emma watched with delight. Later, all 3 of them danced together, laughing and spinning in the garden. "This is the best day ever," Emma declared. "It really is," Sarah agreed, looking at her new husband and daughter with wonder. But the best moment came later that evening, after the guests had gone home, and Emma was getting ready for bed. "Mommy Sarah," Emma said, trying out the name they had decided on together. "Can you read me a bedtime story?" "Of course, sweetheart," Sarah said, her heart full at hearing Emma call her mommy for the first time. As Sarah read to Emma and Marcus watched from the doorway, all 3 of them felt the same thing. They were exactly where they belonged. They were home. That night, as Mr. and Mrs. Richardson fell asleep in each other's arms, Sarah thought about the journey that had brought them together. She had lost everything once, but that loss had led her to something better than she had ever dreamed possible. Sometimes the most beautiful stories begin with the darkest chapters. And sometimes, if you are very lucky, you find people who love you enough to help you write a happy ending. 1 year later, Sarah stood in front of a small office building with a sign that read, "Second Chances Healthcare Support." She held the keys to the building in her hand, still hardly believing that her dream was becoming reality. The idea had started 6 months after her wedding to Marcus. She kept thinking about her own experience of being homeless and how difficult it had been to find work without an address or phone. She wondered how many other healthcare workers were in similar situations, good people who had fallen on hard times but still had valuable skills. "Are you ready?" Marcus asked, coming up behind her with Emma. "I think so," Sarah said, though her heart was beating fast with excitement and nerves. They unlocked the door and stepped inside. The office was small but bright, with room for desks, a meeting area, and a small apartment in the back where people could stay temporarily while they got back on their feet. Emma ran around the empty space, her footsteps echoing. "This is where you're going to help people, right, Mommy Sarah?" "That's right, sweetheart. This is where we're going to help nurses and doctors and other healthcare workers who need a second chance." The nonprofit organization had been Marcus's idea, actually. After hearing Sarah's story and seeing how much good she had done for Mrs. Chen and other patients, he suggested that she start a program to help homeless healthcare workers get back into the workforce. "You know exactly what they're going through," he had said, "and you know how to overcome it. Who better to help them than someone who has been there?" Sarah had been hesitant at first. Starting a nonprofit seemed like a huge responsibility. But with Marcus's business experience and financial support, along with help from Mrs. Chen and other community members, the project had slowly taken shape. The program would provide temporary housing, help with job applications, interview preparation, and professional clothing. Most importantly, it would give people hope and support during their darkest times. "The first residents arrive next week," Sarah told Marcus as they looked around the space. 3 nurses and a medical technician. All of them lost their jobs and homes due to circumstances beyond their control. Marcus smiled and put his arm around his wife. "They're lucky to have you helping them." The past year of marriage had been even better than Sarah had hoped. She and Marcus had grown closer every day, learning to be partners in every sense of the word. Emma had thrived with a complete family, doing well in school and making lots of friends. Even Jennifer had eventually come around. She had missed the wedding, but when she came to visit for Emma's 7th birthday, she was polite to Sarah and seemed to accept that the marriage was real and permanent. "I still think you're crazy," Jennifer had told Marcus privately. "But I can see that you're happy. And Emma is happy. I suppose that's what matters." Mrs. Chen had become like a grandmother to Emma and a close friend to Sarah. She was now completely recovered from her health scare and had become one of the biggest supporters of the new nonprofit. She had donated money to help furnish the office and had volunteered to teach cooking classes to the residents. "Everyone needs to know how to make a good meal," she said. "It's one of the most basic ways to take care of yourself." Rosa had also gotten involved, offering to help with laundry and cleaning services for people who were getting ready for job interviews. "Everyone deserves to feel confident when they're trying to get their life back," Rosa said. On the day of the official opening, Sarah was nervous but excited. She had invited local hospitals and clinics to learn about the program, and several had already expressed interest in hiring graduates. The mayor came to cut the ribbon, along with reporters from the local newspaper and TV station. Sarah gave a short speech about the importance of helping people who had dedicated their lives to helping others. "Healthcare workers are heroes," she said, "but heroes sometimes need help too. When life knocks them down, we have a responsibility to help them get back up." After the ceremony, Marcus found Sarah in the small apartment that would house their first residents. She was arranging flowers on the table and making sure everything looked welcoming. "You did it," he said proudly. "You turned your own painful experience into something that will help hundreds of people." "We did it," Sarah corrected. "I couldn't have done any of this without you." Emma came running into the apartment with Mrs. Chen following more slowly behind her. "Mommy Sarah, Mrs. Chen says you're going to be famous because you were on TV." Sarah laughed. "I don't want to be famous, sweetheart. I just want to help people." "Like how Daddy helped you?" Emma asked. "Exactly like that." That evening, the family went out to dinner to celebrate. As they sat in the restaurant where Marcus and Emma had eaten lunch on the day they first met Sarah, Emma made an announcement. "I know what I want to be when I grow up," she said seriously. "What's that?" Marcus asked. "I want to help people like Mommy Sarah does. I want to give them second chances when they need them." Sarah felt tears in her eyes. "That's a wonderful goal, Emma. Will you teach me how?" "I'll teach you everything I know." Later that night, after Emma was asleep, Sarah and Marcus sat in their garden, the same place where they had been married, where they had first admitted their love for each other, where Sarah had felt like she belonged for the first time in her life. "Do you ever think about that day in the park?" Marcus asked. "When Emma first saw you sleeping on the bench?" "Every day," Sarah said. "I think about how scared I was, and how hopeless everything seemed. I never could have imagined that my life would turn out like this. What do you think would have happened if we had just walked by that day?" Sarah considered this. "I don't know. Maybe I would have figured something out eventually, but I know I wouldn't be as happy as I am now. I wouldn't have you and Emma." "I was thinking about that too," Marcus said. "I almost did walk by. If Emma hadn't asked that question, if she hadn't insisted on helping you, our whole lives would be different. Sometimes I think children see things more clearly than adults do," Sarah said. "Emma saw someone who needed help, and she didn't think about all the reasons why it might be complicated or risky. She just wanted to help. She's a lot like her stepmother that way," Marcus said with a smile. 3 months later, the nonprofit celebrated its first success story. Maria, one of the first residents, had found a job at the children's hospital where Sarah used to work. She had been homeless for 2 months after losing her apartment due to medical bills from her son's surgery. "I didn't think anyone would ever hire me again," Maria said at the celebration. "I felt like damaged goods. But Sarah showed me that one bad period doesn't define your whole life." Sarah watched Maria with pride, remembering her own feelings of hopelessness and shame. Seeing Maria confident and happy again reminded her why this work was so important. "Tell us about your first day at the new job," Emma said to Maria. Emma had become the unofficial greeter for everyone who came through the program. It was wonderful, Maria said. I remembered why I became a nurse in the first place. I loved taking care of children and helping them feel better. After the celebration, Sarah was cleaning up when she found an envelope that someone had left on her desk. Inside was a handwritten note and a photograph. The note read, "Dear Sarah, you don't know me, but I heard about your program on the news. 5 years ago, I was homeless and thought my life was over. A stranger helped me get back on my feet just like you're doing for others. I wanted you to know that kindness creates a ripple effect. The help I received inspired me to help others. And now I run a program for homeless veterans. Keep up the good work. You're changing the world one person at a time." The photograph showed a group of smiling men and women in military uniforms, standing in front of a building with a sign that read, "Veterans Second Chance Housing." Sarah showed the letter to Marcus when she got home. "See?" he said. "You're not just helping the people who come through your program. You're inspiring other people to help too. It makes me think about how many good things might have started with someone asking a simple question like Emma did," Sarah said. "Daddy, why is she napping here?" Such a small question, but it changed everything. That night, as Sarah tucked Emma into bed, the little girl asked, "Mommy Sarah, do you think I helped save you that day in the park?" Sarah thought about this carefully. "I think we all saved each other, sweetheart. You taught your daddy and me that helping someone doesn't have to be complicated. Sometimes it just starts with noticing that someone needs help and caring enough to do something about it." "I'm glad I noticed you," Emma said sleepily. "I'm glad you noticed me too." As Sarah turned off Emma's light and closed the door, she reflected on the incredible journey that had brought her to this moment. She had a husband who loved her, a daughter who adored her, meaningful work that helped others, and a future full of possibilities. She thought about her mother and wished she could have met Marcus and Emma. She knew her mother would have been proud to see how Sarah had rebuilt her life and found happiness again. But most of all, she was grateful for that moment in the park, when a little girl's innocent question had changed everything. Sometimes the most important moments in life come disguised as ordinary conversations. Sometimes a single act of kindness can create ripples that spread farther than anyone could imagine.